Hello, and welcome to, finally, episode 200 of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa, and I'm joined by Matthew Figuera.
I bought cake. What did you bring?
I bought myself.
Look,
I
have
myself
the power
is a
over
present.
The cake. maybe I should spend the whole podcast just adding birthday-related stuff. As I remember.
Yo, just by the end of it, there's actually like 10,000 cakes on the video stream.
We're starting
That'd
with,
be great.
with cake on the bottom
approve.
left. Sorry, audio listeners, you get nothing. Imagine cake on our video feed.
The cake is not a lie in this week's episode
real.
of Checkpoint
Yeah,
Chat.
but
It's very, very real.
Yeah, but apologies for the huge delay. My God.
Yeah.
So we started with you were away, which is cool.
I was away
So
for a week, yeah.
So we missed one or two episodes, and then ESCOM struck. It was great. Load shedding.
ESCOM was like, "Oh, you want to record? Well, we're just going to put you on alternating schedules for load shedding. So every time I was on, Matthew was off, and vice versa. So
it just
literally no chance of us recording. Like we looked at doing in person, but then the last time we did in person, we stuffed up something with the audio, and that episode was really bad. So like we're like, let's not do that for episode 200.
Yeah.
Bummer, but yeah, we finally made it. 200 episodes. That's wild. That is.
So I could be wrong. I mean, I'd have to scroll back via our feed, but I think we launched this in March 2022, 2018.
I think that's right. Yeah.
So I think that's 5 years. Shit, you ever felt old?
You can see we've been slacking though, because there's 52 weeks in a year. So technically we should have
we've missed
year
some. Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes life happens. But yeah, it's cool. We made it to 200. Nothing is changing anytime soon, as far as I know.
No. This isn't one of those big anniversary episodes where we announce a bunch of new shit, because hey, like we do this in our spare time, and this format we've got going is pretty good. Like we've toyed around with the idea of going completely back in person again, but I just don't see a reason for it when the setup we've got here just works super well. The video works super well when we're separated as well. So I think it's just like COVID showed us that, hey, this is possible, and it's actually kind of okay. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts that at least I know I follow that also have kind of just not gone back.
Gone back to person, yeah.
Yeah, if I think of like Kind of Funny, they're still remote. I mean, they've got a studio that they're revealing
they are
soon.
launching a studio, but they did remote for a very long time.
Yeah, for way long. I know Giant Bomb is still remote. They aren't going into the office to record. So like, I think a lot of folks were just like, yeah, this actually isn't as complicated to pull off and, you know, professionally pull off.
Well, it is amazing for us because I suppose just on the day we're like, let's just try it.
We didn't have a choice.
We worked it out, So
we're like, well, this is how we're gonna have to do it. And then we introduced video as a big thing, because I mean, before then we were just doing audio. So, and I think the video is a pretty cool component. So, I mean, that's just like a few things that have happened since, if I'm not mistaken, like COVID happened shortly before our 100 episode.
Yeah,
I distinctly remember being like, oh my God, we're not even going to be together for the show's 100th episode. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And to think like 200. It's been a whole 100 since then is pretty insane. So
they say, this podcast is the gift that keeps on giving. So there's some more presents for us.
But I mean, this podcast wouldn't be possible without anyone listening. Like, at the end of the day, we like to get together and talk shit together.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of this podcast. But it's cool that a lot of you like to listen to us talk shit for 2 hours every week. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this Elden Ring podcast.
200 episodes. 200 episodes of this shit, and now an Elden Ring podcast, because that's what today's mostly going to be. I will say up front, like, if you are still playing Elden Ring and you do not want to be spoiled, just don't listen today. Just like, I can't even tell you when to like start and stop listening because I don't know.
I'm pretty
just
sure
like straight up, just give it a skip right
this
now.
This will be our, I suppose, I know we've spoken about it so much in this podcast. Like probably, I think the last game we spoke about so much was Final Fantasy VII Remake, which made an appearance many times.
Probably.
Elden Ring is just one of those games where it's super big. I started playing it for many weeks and then you jumped on the bandwagon later. So we've stretched it out, but you finally finished it, but we will get to that.
Finally finished it. Yeah. I mean, you see what happens when you get 3 weeks off of doing a podcast. You can finish video games.
You can actually finish Elden Ring.
What a time.
Oh my God.
What a time. But yeah, I mean, there's actually been quite a few games coming out, like a bunch of stuff. It's just been like small gems dropping here and there. And we're, very quickly racing towards the end of the year where there's, your big releases like your God of Wars, your Call of Duties, all of that stuff.
What are the blast heavy hitters for the year? It's those two, but is anything else? Like I know there's tons of games, but it feels like it's, I don't know, like God of War to me is probably
God of War seems like the real like tentpole one. Yeah, that's like the big like holiday release. Because Microsoft again just does not conform to holiday releases anymore. It seems they're just like we do what we do.
Yeah. Also, Microsoft weirdly quiet this year compared to last, where they had Halo Infinite, Age of Empires, Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, you're right.
Missing one. Psychonauts 2. Like they had a lot of big AAA titles.
Yeah, it was like September
year.
was Horizon. Then I think November was Halo. Age of Empires was somewhere around there as well. So yeah, they had a pretty stacked. I remember last year was like, Xbox has got a stacked holiday and PlayStation just doesn't. Like, doesn't really have anything. And to be fair, like PlayStation's got God of War this year, sure, and that is going to be a massive game. But it's the same. They both kind of don't have like a stacked library going. I think this year of any year is when we felt like COVID. Like this is where the delays have really shown themselves. And I think we'll continue to see that a little bit into next year. But there have been some good games. I guess before we get to Elden Ring, we can discuss some small things I've been playing here and there. I probably should have sent you because I actually have quite a bit of footage of this. But I've been playing a small game called Hyperdemon, and this game. So in 2016, if you cast your mind back there, there was a great shooter that year. It's called Doom. Right, it's very good. It's
amazing.
Really good to have Doom back. But at the same time, there was also another one that came out just before it, called Devil Daggers, which was a very basic, down to its roots sort of shooter where you were just in an arena, on like a big square arena that you could actually fall off of, and you had like this little like hand that was like your gun. And the entire objective was to just survive. Like you had all sorts of new enemies pop up over the course of a run. If you get hit once, you die. And the purpose of it was to last as long as you can. And the first few runs you do, you last maybe 10 seconds. And over the course of a few hours, you maybe get that up to like 30. It's brutal. Like it's really, really hard. And it forces you to understand enemy patterns and spacing extremely well. And use your attacks like extremely well. So Hyperdemon is from same developer. And for all intents and purposes, it's kind of a continuation of that idea. So you're still in an arena. You still have this one hand that does a variety of attacks now. Like you can hold down for like a barrage of bullets, or you can tap shoot for like a shotgun blast. Or you can suck up these like crystals after you kill an enemy to do like a long range laser railgun blast, stuff like that. But instead of just being about survival, when you start each round, you have a timer on the top that starts at 10. And as soon as the round starts, that timer starts counting down. And as you kill enemies, you'll add to that timer. It's usually about 3 seconds per enemy kill. So the game doesn't end when the timer gets to 0. It just goes into negative and keeps counting down. It actually only ends if you get to like -60, I think. But your high score is based off of how high your timer is when you die. So you can have runs where you've only been alive for 5 seconds, but your score is actually higher than one where you've lasted 30 because you were playing so passively on the one where you lasted longer that your score actually wasn't going up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's this weird ballet of being super, super aggressive, like getting up in enemies' faces, trying to take them down very quickly. Also identifying patterns like, okay, as soon as I kill this guy, I'm going to be close to this enemy. He's weak to this sort of approach. I've got to do that. Then I've got to hop to this one. So you're finding routes through this like very small play area as enemies continually move around. So you're constantly like adjusting on the fly. And it is just unbelievably fun. Like it is so adrenaline inducing because you're constantly like flying off the like you're at the edge of your seat constantly because as soon as you kill an enemy, you're quickly going, okay, who's close? That one's close. Okay, how do I kill him? Okay, oh my God, there's actually someone behind me trying to kill me. I've got to deal with him. Like, and because you can't stop. If you just stop, if you are like running for 2 to 3 seconds between enemies, you've already lost like the rhythm of it. You need to
just quit now.
Yeah, you need to be chaining together. Like you've got air dashes, you've got an infinite number of bunny hops. So if you hop and you press jump just before you hit the ground, you'll bunny hop again. And if you can maintain that rhythm, you just move. Yeah. So like some of the highest level plays that I've seen are people just like they continually jumping. They just don't stop.
My goodness.
You've got like a rocket jump. So if you aim at the floor, you can rocket jump into the air, and then you can press spacebar to do like a stomp, which it stuns some enemies. It can also do damage to other enemies. But at the same time, if you stomp on the head of an enemy who's like not stunned by that, they'll just kill you. So some enemies have this like crystal inside them that if you hit them with a railgun blast, they instantly die. But at the same time, then they don't drop that crystal, so you don't get another charge for your railgun. So you've got to you've got all these micro decisions to make in split seconds. As you continue to run, and runs start out the same, so you can sort of predict, which enemies are going to appear when. But like the further and further you get into a run, it becomes so chaotic because the speed at which new enemies get introduced is dependent on how quickly you kill them. So depending on who you kill and in what order, new enemies can spawn in completely different orders. It's so good. It's really, really good. And I think what makes this, in a way, more approachable than Devil Daggers, because it is way more mechanically complex, is the fact that it's got a very robust like training mode. So the training mode is all these like little scenarios that teach you all the mechanics, teach you all the attacks and all the patterns for the 4 enemies in the game, which is really good because then in a run, you're more focused on executing than being like, I don't understand how this enemy works type of thing, At the same time, everyone on the leaderboard has a replay attached to their score. So you can click that and it immediately downloads. You just watch it. So like I can watch the number 1 player in the world's replay and it looks like a completely fucking different game to me because of how he's moving. Like this is probably one of them. I mean, this score here is at, if you're watching the video feed, is at 150. My highest score is 40.
It should just get good, man.
I think the highest score in the world right now is 300 and something. Because there is an actual end to the game. Like once you've killed all the enemies, there is an end. So then it starts becoming like, how fast can you get there? So, I mean, this already, I'm looking at this footage and the movement here, like loads of rocket jumps, loads of like intricate maneuvers. Yeah, I can't do this. And if you're watching the footage, you can see the visual style really complements the sort of chaos because it's got this like really glowing polygonal style to it where that already is kind of like weird and off-putting. But then whenever you get stuff like power-ups, time slows down, but also the sort of like aperture of the lens completely warps. So like enemy portraits just like bend across the entire screen and you kind of like lose track of where they are. you can see there's also these like flashing red silhouettes of enemies. That's when they're behind you, so it warns you that they're behind you. When enemy eyes flash, that means if you press spacebar and dodge, you'll do like a very in-time witch time dodge. You can see the play here actually got to the end. Yeah, it got to the end. There's just a lot happening, and for the first hour, I think it is a bit overwhelming. But it's sort of, I liken the visual style to like a sort of language that you need to learn.
Yeah.
And once you start picking up visual cues and audio cues, it's just like, you're getting all the information you need constantly. It's really, really good. It's a great game. I think it's phenomenal. It's really cheap on Steam. And it is just one of those very pure shooters that I think nails the fundamentals of a shooter and lets you have fun with that.
Yeah, I recognize. So I know you've been talking about Hyperdemon all week because, you've been enjoying it. But I haven't looked up any footage or anything. I just kept in the back of my mind, Hyperdemon. But looking at the footage now, I'm like, I recognize this game. I remember seeing either, I don't know, early gameplay or something and thinking, this looks crazy.
It was a surprise release as well. It just like dropped this week. Everyone's like, okay, cool. It's good. I think I told you yesterday, but like this is a game that you 100% would vibe
probably
with. Like almost certain you'd vibe with, and it would be that bug that bites you. You're like, oh god, I need to get better. I need to get better. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed watching people stream it. I've enjoyed watching a lot of replays trying to break down how I can get better. And I got into bed earlier this week after playing about 3 hours of it nonstop. And I was in bed and Shani was like, why are you breathing so hard? I was like, man, my heart was just pounding. It was just so when you realize you're on a good run and you look at the time and you're like, oh my God, my time is at the high score. So it's like, what do? Do I like yeet myself into an enemy to save that high score? Or do I keep going and potentially like lose the rhythm and don't get a high score? It's like, so I just keep going. And then it's like, oh my God, I've missed it by a second because I was slow getting to this one enemy. Like,
my goodness.
So good. It's so good. Really enjoy it.
Looks like a good time.
We've had a cracking year for like speed run focused shooters. Yeah, like Neon White.
That's another game I still need to get to.
Yeah, another game I think you would absolutely
just
adore.
Snort.
So, yeah. So Hyperdemon, real good. I actually don't know how much it is. I'll check on Steam just now because I did get it for review. So I think it's about $150 if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that's not expensive.
Very, very cheap. So sort of same as Neon White was like stupidly cheap.
It is 100 rand.
Oh yeah, fucking
Steam.
Just play that. Like it is worth so much more than that. Like the amount of time and enjoyment I've got out of it. Yeah, what a game.
No, you said you played 3 hours the one evening.
Yeah, just one evening, just gone, and it like just oh my god.
Hold on, just adding some balloons here to this.
It just disappeared. The time it was real good.
Nice.
Another shooter ish that I've been playing.
Completely different kind of shooter.
Yeah, completely different kind. Splatoon 3.
Nice.
This came out a while back now. We probably would have spoken about it earlier, hadn't it been for all these delays to actually getting to episode 200. But Splatoon 3 is certainly more Splatoon, which is totally all right with me because I love Splatoon. It's
one of those games I still haven't played.
Another one that I think you would actually quite enjoy. It's, if you haven't played it, it's basically a spin on shooters where you are a squid kid thing. And you basically shoot paint during multiplayer matches or turf war matches at least. And the team with the most of their paint covered in the arena wins the game. So you get a variety of different weapons that, spread paint in all sorts of different ways. Some are better, some are more attuned for killing enemy opponents. Some are better just like getting tons of paint down very, very quickly. While you're running on paint of your color, you can press a button and turn into a squid so that you are obscured from view and move a lot faster, which is really, really cool. And then just like Splatoon 2, Splatoon 3 has a single player campaign, which is neat. It's got Salmon Run, which is the like wave-based horde mode. This time it's not. In Splatoon 2, it was weird. You could only play it during certain weeks. I don't know why they chose that to do that, but now you can play whenever, which is a lot better.
Nice, that's cool.
So it's basically a lot of Splatoon 2, but more of it. More clothes to buy, more weapons to purchase. It's cool. The big problem I have with it, which is seemingly a global one at the time, is the online component is just kind of broken.
Just broken.
Which is kind of ridiculous for a game that is
online,
primarily about multiplayer shooter, online shooter. I constantly have to like search for a good 5 minutes before I actually get matched into a game. You just sit in the lobby like waiting, and then you get matched into a game, and then one of the big new features, I don't know why it's considered a new feature, but it is, of this one, is that when you finish a game, you can basically just say, hey, I want to play in the same lobby. Splatoon 1 and 2 would just dump you back into the main lobby and you'd have to search again. But that whole component doesn't work because whenever I've tried it, it just goes communication error and then dumps me back in the... So it's like, play a game, and games are short. They're like 3 minutes. Wait 5 minutes to match to another 3-minute game. And it just completely ruins the flow of like what should be like, short spurts of multiplayer fun. So it's a real bummer. It's not confined, to South Africa. I probably exacerbated in South Africa because of, just the number of people playing maybe. But I've seen a bunch of regions complaining about this. There's been Resetera threads about like how bad the online is. Like, it's a real shame. But it hasn't stopped the game selling like stupidly well. It's literally the fastest selling game of all time in Japan. So,
I think it was 3.5 million copies in the first week or first 3 days or something.
First 3 days, yeah. I mean, 2% of Japan's population bought that game in the first 3 days, which is just...
When you put it like that, it's like, damn.
It's ridiculous.
Quote unquote, like only 2%. You're like, hang on. That's a lot of people.
To think of it, it's the fastest selling launch of any game ever in Japan, like ever. It's absurd. And how it just makes it so much more disappointing that it just doesn't work.
I wonder how it's working in Japan, because I mean, so I know we've got communication errors and it's been a global thing, but surely there it's like way easier to find a game.
I'd hope so. Yeah, I'd hope so. I also, I don't know for what reason, but I've played a lot of Splatoon and Splatoon 2, and I felt quite competent in Splatoon 2. But I don't know if they've changed something to do with the control scheme here, but I just can't wrap my head around like aiming correctly for some reason. So, I mean, most people play the game with motion controls. So the idea is that you rotate your camera left and right with the stick and then tilt up and down for aiming. That is just, I got used to it in Splatoon 2 because it seemed that that's how most people were playing, and like I got quite comfortable. But now playing it on here, it feels super like finicky and not precise. And I don't know if we've been spoiled by like the likes of Fortnite, which have really good tilt controls, or other shooters that have adapted this and have just done it better. But I just can't get the hang of it, and I'm like playing extremely badly. So, but maybe that's just a time thing. Like, I need more time with it, but because I can't, because like I don't feel like waiting 10 minutes between matches to play a 3-minute game, So it also does this annoying thing where as soon as you walk into the lobby, it resets the neutral point of your camera. So like I'll be holding the switch and it'll be like, camera's placed perfectly. I walk into a new lobby and suddenly the camera's pointing all the way up, and I have to like tilt it down, press Y to recalibrate.
Oh, that's so weird.
I don't know why it does that, but but it's still fun. There's a lot of content, I think. It's certainly not. It's not like a Mario Strikers where it's like, it feels lacking, like you said. I think. Yeah, there's a lot. Like the campaign is good. The horde mode is really fun. Yeah, and then the multiplayer will definitely be fixed, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, well, looking at the if you've been watching the footage, this is just a Nintendo trailer giving an overview of like all the stuff in the game, and there's a lot. I've just been watching, going, oh my god, okay, there's this mode, there's this feature, there's this mode. Oh, here's salmon run. There's some cosmetics you can unlock.
And I think if like for someone like you who's never played Splatoon, it will feel like tons, because like for a Splatoon 2 player, it's like, oh, okay, it's stuff I'm familiar with. It's just, a bit new. But this, like, as a new player, is like tons of content for you. So much. So I really hope you'll get the game one day, because I'd love to play Salmon Run with not strangers. Because it's a ton of fun. So yeah. And then of course you got the Splatfest. There's actually one going on this weekend where there's special events that Nintendo hosts from time to time, where you choose from one of now 3 teams. It used to be 2. And then all your games and wins over the course of the weekend for that team contribute to a global score. And then at the end, there's a winner, and if you're part of the winning team, you get some cool cosmetics and stuff like that. So yeah, and Splatfests are rad.
So I just saw it show up there. They said support for 2 years, so they're going to fix it online, because Splatoon 2 did have
it had 2 years of support as well.
Yeah, it had a real long life. Like, people still spoke about it and played it long after its launch.
It had a campaign expansion as well. They haven't said if they'll do that for 3. Yeah, and that expansion was really good. So yeah, I hope they fix it, because I think Splatoon 3 is just as good as Splatoon 2. But I'm stuck here yearning for like the stability of Splatoon 2, which is absurd to think about, because like the online there was still so backwards in so many ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, bummer.
Can you believe it? Oh my god.
Have you been playing anything untoward?
I've played like bits and pieces of things.
Some more Fortnite?
Yeah, so the new Fortnite season came out it was last week now, a week ago. So I only played like a couple games actually last night and the night before. So just early days, but yeah, it's the Chrome season. So they've added, I suppose it's like a Chrome grenade you can throw that turns you and allies into Chrome, which is funny because watching Splatoon now, it made me think of, think Terminator, just nice silver chrome.
What does that do?
So think of Splatoon, you diving into the paint as a squid. You can do that now in Fortnite as a little blob of chrome. It's actually really cool. So yeah, when you chrome yourself, you can become this little blob that gives you movement speed. You can sprint. You can do a dash in this little silver blob form, and you can go through walls of buildings, which is pretty neat. Great for surprising enemies or trying to look badass and getting shots as people know what you're going to try.
Wow.
So it didn't happen to me last night. But yeah, they've in typical Fortnite fashion, parts of the map have been shaken up. Like there are the same locations with different color palettes, but you kind of know that as the season goes, that's going to sort of phase out. Something new is going to come in. And I think there are new weapons. I don't know I haven't played Fortnite regularly enough to know if, these weapons that are out now have existed before, they've just come out of the vault, or no, these are brand new weapons. I think it's the former. I think a lot of the time they just, switch weapons in and out of the game. But yeah, at the moment though, there's you played a bit of last season. So, the only long range choices there's the heavy sniper and the DMR.
Yes.
Heavy sniper is like a one-shot, high damage, long reload, one-shot clip basically. But now they've vaulted that and they've bought the hunter's rifle, which is a bolt-action 3-clip sniper rifle. So it's little tweaks like that, but it always makes the game feel fresh. Like even last season, it was amazing. I played consistently through those 10 to 12 weeks, whatever the period was, and every week there's just something different. They bring something in for like a week or two, take it out, swap in something new, and the experience always changes. I mean, even the map itself, like I said earlier, it evolves and changes as the season goes on. Like a good example is there was that Dragon Ball Z limited time event.
Yes,
they
logged in just to buy Vegeta and have not played with him yet.
I mean, you log in, play that event, you're like, now they've added the Nimbus Cloud, which is like a good mobility option. They've added the, Kamehameha blasts. It just changes the game and keeps it fresh. And like, I really take my hat off to the team behind it, because I don't know, I think after 4 years or however long, actually they're celebrating their 5-year birthday. That's why, like us.
Really? Has it been 5 years?
Like us, they've got birthday cakes and everything in all of the servers.
Look at fucking Epic copying us. Hey?
Yeah, I can't believe this. But I mean,
it.
I think if it's been 5 years of Fortnite, to keep things fresh for that long,
no, it's admirable.
I mean, even
really
this Chrome season. So John, Mark and I were talking last night, saying, how long have they had this planned for? Like, how far ahead do they plan their seasons and their content? There must be like this huge pipeline of, in September 2023, we're aiming for this sort of theme, or we want this sort of gameplay mechanic, or in terms of story, we want to, lean towards this sort of cinematic and theme. Like, let's incorporate that into the game, and how it all comes together across everything from PC to mobile devices and still works. Like, I don't know. It's like actual wizardry. Like, I don't know. At what point do they go, hey, like, we're killing Fortnite, we're doing Fortnite 2, but I don't think they'll do it for a long time. But at some point, I feel that they have to, maybe improve the engine or something. But at the moment, it's still just getting so much use. So I don't know.
Well, I wonder if they will, because, like, to me, the most logical thing would be to just, you've got Unreal Engine 5 coming out, so just port it. You know what I mean?
True,
they're the ones who create it. So, like, instead of doing a whole new Fortnite, you just go, oh, we're putting out a new version of Fortnite that now is actually running on Unreal Engine 5, and it doesn't support X, Y, and Z. Similar to how they added ray tracing. They were like, we are doing a big engine update to Fortnite. It now supports ray tracing and DLSS and all of that shit.
Yep.
So I suspect they'll do that. Like you said, I don't think they'll do a Fortnite 2.
You never know. So I'm just adding some streamers here.
It sounds cool. I really want to hop into the new Fortnite season purely because there's a Spider-Gwen skin.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but is it part of the Battle Pass?
It's part of the Battle Pass. You got to grind to. Did you get Darth Vader last season? No. You know what? If you dive in, let's say at week 6 or 7, and you just commit to ticking off those weekly quests, you'll level up so quickly. And I mean, some of them you unlock just by playing the game. Some of them it's a matter of, I need to land at this spot, and do dance or emotes, whatever. You get so much XP. I mean, because like we last season we were like, we got to log in into our dailies because we don't want to miss out on Darth Vader. And when the season ended, I was level like 150. I'd like long shot past it just from playing the game so much. So yeah, you don't need to do dailies or anything.
I think I'll just need to like play a bit more because I didn't play tons last time. So yeah. Cool.
Jeff played a bunch of Fortnite. Funnily enough, I also played, I'll just touch on it very briefly. So I actually didn't make a timestamp for Fortnite. Future me is going to be so upset. And I have to put show notes like, what time is that? I've actually tried, at John Michael's recommendation for a very long time, Paladins, which is real funny.
The Overwatch
to try it out now when Overwatch 2 is coming out, because I think back to when Overwatch launched and I was all in on Overwatch. I loved the heck out of Overwatch. I mean, when we were working for Lazy Gamer, I spent a lot of time doing like deep dives into the lore and the cinematic videos that launched. So I was like really all in. And then on a day I just fell off. And I just never went back. So I fell off long ago enough that I haven't played a lot of the new heroes. I haven't played Doomfist, haven't played Brigitte, haven't played Ash, the new sniper. So yeah, I'm quite keen to see Overwatch 2 come out. But on that tangent, I played Paladins, which launched at the same time as Overwatch. Well, more or less the same time. People were straight up like, wow, Paladins is an Overwatch clone. I can't believe they've stolen.
How dare they so blatantly copy this?
And like there are similarities, but I think Paladins does more than enough to, set itself apart from Overwatch. Like the probably the most obvious similarity is like you push a payload, but it's okay, but Team Fortress 2 had that, and I don't see anyone shitting on Overwatch. Would be like, I can't believe they. But I mean, and then some of the heroes, they look similar, but in terms of how they function and play, it's like a completely different game. Like Paladins, if you want to min max and go all in, there's a lot of room for customization. So the basic game is you essentially spawn, 2 teams spawn, and you have to try capture a point in the middle of the map. And then whoever captures that point gets a payload to push along towards the enemy base. And you get points according to how far you push it or how well you defend, for example. But throughout the game, you're earning a currency, like a fixed rate of, let's say, like 1 a second or however much it is. And you can use that currency to buy buffs in-game, like you would in a Dota, for example. You know, you'd buy an item maybe, but in Paladins, it's a matter of, okay, I've got X amount of money. I want to improve my reload speed. I want to improve the cooldown on my abilities. And each sort of perk you choose has 3 levels of it. And, you know, each increment getting more expensive. So you could start off with buying improved reload speed at 20%, and then going through to the most expensive one, reload speed 60% faster. So like there's flexibility in that regard of how do you want to build your character further. Like you're a tank, so you obviously want to take the abilities that reduce damage by percentages, for example.
Yeah.
But then over and above this, outside the game, there's a whole card system. Each character has, which I didn't know until I'd played the game.
A card system. Okay.
So
is it like the equipment or?
Yeah. So each character you can build like a, you know, quote unquote deck that you start the game with, and you can choose, I think it's like 6 cards. Don't quote me. I could be wrong. Could be 6 to 8. But the cards could be anything from like, oh, this character's card. Every time you cast this ability, you get your clip reloads, for example. Or anytime you cast that ability, you sprint 20% faster. Like it's customized per character. So like you can really build out, you know, tailor how you want to play your certain character. That said, if you don't want to engage with that side of the game, you don't need to. There's pre-built decks, all of that. You can even tell the game to auto-level you, you know, those passives I mentioned. So I think it's quite beginner-friendly. Like you don't have to commit to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's also free to play. So because it's a hero shooter, the flip side of that is that it's free to play, but there's only X amount of heroes in rotation per week. But I mean, I've played 15 hours and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's on Switch, and let me tell you, it looks rubbish on Switch, but it runs at 60 FPS, which is quite amazing, given how much nonsense can go on in any game.
And are you still playing it regularly, or have you kind of like bounced back to Fortnite now?
No, well, we played Fortnite a bit this week, but I've played Paladins a week ago. I mean, I streamed it quite a few times. It's good fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never really got into, well, I played Overwatch a bunch, but I was never like, you know, huge into it. So I don't know if I'd like get into Paladins, but it was surprising to me when you told me you were playing it that it was still around, you know what I mean? I kind of thought it disappeared very long ago.
I don't know what the numbers are like, but it's still getting new heroes, regular updates. I mean, as a matter of interest, let's see, Paladins, current players on Steam, because that'll give an indication, right?
Yeah, Steam actually launched a tool to monitor this now, because we used to have to rely on SteamDB, which would only work on, you know, profiles that had allowed their data to be viewed publicly. But Steam now has their own page for this. That's where a lot of people are getting those stats for like Overwatch, Cyberpunk reaching like ridiculously high numbers again. Okay,
so Paladins, it's not like groundbreaking numbers. I mean, last month's average players are 5,000, peak players 10,000.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not bad given the game.
I mean, it's higher than Babylon's Fall, you know what I mean? So
oh my God.
Babylon's Fall of 6 concurrent players like 2 weeks after it launched. So
good Lord. Yeah. I mean, and this is also Steam. This is cross-platform across PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, funny enough. So,
okay.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Should we move on to the meat of this meal? if the rest was just potatoes. That's how that goes, right?
This is the rest is just potatoes and salads.
I guess now is the time. I know I said at the beginning, don't listen, but now is the time. Like, if you are still playing Elden Ring, and you do not. Sorry, I've got hair all over my microphone.
Damn cats.
Yeah, really. We've both finished the game now. Well, it was mostly Matty waiting for me to finish the game. I finished it now after. I think my run was like 98 hours. So
my first one was about 103. So similar times.
We're just gonna gush about this game. No holds barred. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Elden Ring is good.
Your thoughts, after
Elden Ring is
all
good.
This time, you finally rolled credits on Elden Ring.
Elden Ring is good. It is. I will say maybe. I don't think this is controversial though. Maybe slightly too long, but still very good. I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of the time I spent exploring its world. I think that's probably its greatest strength is just what an insanely well-realized open world that reminds you that open worlds can be fun to explore. I think, to be honest, I don't know if they learned lessons from it or just expanded on it, but this is the first game I've played since Breath of the Wild that is like, oh, you guys 100%. Understood. You understood what made that game special, and you just improved on it in so many different ways, while also retaining From Software's flavor of really intricately connected worlds and subspaces. I think that's probably the best part. Like, the first couple of hours exploring Limgrave and then the Learning of the Lakes, just incredible. I think some of it kind of dissipates by the end, and I think that's why I say it's slightly too long. Like the snowfields that you visit near the end of the game they feel quite linear in comparison to the rest of the game, and then the fact that the last 10 or so hours feel like more of a boss rush than anything else.
The end is just boss after boss after boss.
Yeah, it's just like, here's a room with a boss, walk a few meters. Oh, another boss, walk a few meters. Like, felt a bit strange. Like, it almost like the game was rushing to an end. But at the same time, I kind of accepted it at that point because I had enjoyed so much about the exploration up until that point that I was at the point where I felt like I wanted to finish the game. Not because I'm sick of this and I want to be done with it. It was more like, I want to see the conclusion to this now. Yeah. I want to know how this all wraps up and feel like I've completed this, what feels like a monumental task. It's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I think just to, I suppose, add to what you've said, the probably one of the best strengths of this game. I mean, it's got that signature from combat. It's very punishing. It's punishing but rewarding. Like when you figure something out, you get that good high. But just that they took, their good level design from the likes of Bloodborne and Dark Souls, where those games, players will tell you, there's no feeling quite like opening up a door or seeing it fold back. And you're like, oh my God, like I can't believe I got back here. But to see that realized in an open world is like the number of times where, I mean, how did you feel the first time you went down that well, where you're like, oh my God, there's a whole underground part of the map here.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, when you're going down the, what's it, Sophria?
The river or whatever it's called.
The whole fact that there is, and that's not even the only one. Like that's just one part where there's a whole world underneath the crust of the world, and then like you get to the end of a portion there, and you come up, and you're in an entirely different place. And you're like, what the fuck?
And you're like, how did I fold back to this? I mean, it's on that scale, but then also on, the actual dungeons themselves. There are some of those signature, these sprawling. The complex is not the right word, but sprawling dungeons, I guess, like Stormvale Castle. A Volcano Manor has some wild design where things fold into each other. It's crazy,
and those feel like your traditional From Software dungeons, where it's like, oh, there's a specific path through this place, but there are shortcuts here and there to get to like resting points and stuff. So I like that they peppered those in between. It's something that I think, thinking back, that I wish Breath of the Wild did, where you had this incredible open world and you had the divine beasts, which were meant to act as your traditional dungeons.
Yeah.
And the divine beasts, I think, were a real big experiment on dungeon design, because it was like a dungeon that the puzzle was how you could change the formats of the dungeon rather than just being a puzzle in getting through it.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it at the time, but I know a lot of people wanted the more traditional Zelda dungeons, and I get that. So I think From here kind of gave us that. It was like, here's your open world, but if you really loved your Bloodborne, you really loved your Dark Souls, and you love the very intricate maze-like castles. Oh, damn, that was a harsh death there.
So mad.
If you love those intricately like designed mazes, we still have those. Like you said, Stormvale Castle, Raya Lucaria Academy is like that. And I think later on, like Volcano Manor is similar to that.
I mean, the capital is just...
Lindell's a massive example of that.
That's just like a masterpiece of
incredible design.
Like, super design.
Lindell as a city. Oh.
And even just the scale, like you walk in, and I love how it frames. You sort of walk in, and then it's framed, like you can see the Erd tree, and then you walk onto the platform. You're like, oh my God, like this place is huge. And, more or less everything you can see, you can sort of get to, like with some exception. Obviously, there's some rooftops and that are just there for like decoration. But then you explore this whole city, and that in itself will take you a long time. And then, oh my God, there's a whole part of the map underneath the city, which again,
a
like,
whole sewer system, which is a whole
like,
other thing. Yeah,
it's crazy. The level,
Lindell's a high point in that game. Like it is unmatched. And I'm just watching this footage now. I've never fucking been here.
So this is a part of Volcano. And again, like you could miss this. Like there are different ways to get to Rykart, but this is the route you go if you're speeding through the game.
Because I think so the way you got here to Volcano Manor was being killed by the Iron Maiden at the bottom of Raya Lucaria. But I remember reading that there are two ways that you can go. You can, depending on where you go, if you go left or right, you will either fight the Godskin Noble or the Godskin Apostle. And if you hit the Apostle, then you basically just end up like jumping out by the entrance of Volcano Manor.
Yeah.
And I guess if you go left, you get Godskin Noble and this whole fucking palace in lava, which I've never seen in my life.
So,
and then a portal to Rykart. Okay.
So that's worth mentioning that, okay, you put 98 hours into your first playthrough. I put just over 100 hours. So I did the thing of diving straight back in for a second playthrough with a different build. So first character was Melee Bleed. Second character
I think that's most people's first build. Like it's just such a satisfying build. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah.
Then I went, Melee Mage with some spells and some good incantation. Well, not incantations, I guess. That's faith. But yeah, so my second playthrough was 60 hours and shorter, but I still spent time poking around, and I saw things that I just missed on my first playthrough. Like, I thought I was pretty thorough. And like, I get it. You get people who have put, like, let's say 200 hours into the game, and they really have seen every damn corner of the map. In my first playthrough, I feel that I did, go everywhere there was to be seen, and I did run alongside cliffs to see if there were mines or dungeons or whatever. But on my second playthrough, the amounts of stuff I missed, I couldn't believe it. And it's the same reaction you had now of what the hell?
Where the
hell is this in Volcano Manor? I had that with so many different things. Even Stormvale Castle, the number of times I was like, oh, there's a ledge down there. Oh my God, there's like a whole different part of this castle that I missed. It's crazy. There's just too much. So I think,
where the fuck are you now? I've not seen this.
No, you might have seen this. You'll recognize this blacksmith.
King's. Oh yeah, okay, I know this guy. So this guy's cool.
Remember, because of the speedrun, you use the teleporters to cover distances pretty quickly.
Yes.
So you go to this dude to up your weapons and buy some smithing stones.
Oh, because you haven't unlocked the round table hold yet?
No, I have, but you can buy smithing stones from this guy. So it jumpstarts you to level 6 straight up. Well, level 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the only criticism I'll have in the game, and I agree with you, is that it's like saying it's too long. I don't know. It's a bit ambiguous. It's because the game is as long as you want it to be. You could just hightail it to whatever. You are sort of given an idea of like, oh, you need to do this, and okay, I should go here. So you could really condense the game down to, I'd say, 40, 50 hours. Even that's being a bit conservative. But I think my biggest criticism of the game is that there is some extra fluff. Like, I know there's tons of dungeons but you start getting repeat bosses, which, again, I take my hat off to them that they thought, we're going to make 1 million different dungeons. And it would be wild to expect a unique boss per dungeon. But it almost feels like you could have reined that in just a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how,
100%.
But I totally panicked.
I agree 100%. Like that's the thing that at the beginning seems so incredible. Like you're doing these little mini dungeons or like what are they called? The heroes' graves.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is incredible. Like there's, bosses at the end of these. All of these feel different, whatever. But not even 50 hours in, you're like, I was stopping doing them because I was like, this is actually a waste of my time. I was going in there sometimes to get like certain crafting materials, like you need them for your summons, and they only really appear there. But a lot of the times when I got to the boss there, I was just summoning my mimic because I was like, I really could not give a shit about fighting this boss for the 3rd time. Like I'll just and again, like I say summoning the mimic as if like that's how I cheese the game. And for anyone who used summons, I think that is totally fine. It is part of the game, and it is why a lot of people have enjoyed this game, because that gives you an extra edge in boss fights. I tried not to use it as much because I felt that, at least in the way that I'd configured mine, it made a lot of boss fights very easy. And I didn't want to feel that, you know what I mean? So it depends on what you want from the game. Like if you're here just to beat the bosses, like by all means, fucking do whatever you want. It's a mechanic in the game. And I'm kind of glad that they added it because it allows people to enjoy the game at that pace. But I was telling you yesterday, like I want to play the game again just so I can face like Melania, and Malekith without the summon, because you see, again, at that point, I played the game for so long that my patience for like, oh God, am I really going to spend 10 hours on Melania? I just had none of it. I was just like, I can't bring myself to get into that headspace. So, I used a summon, and sure, I still had to beat her, but like it made it much, much easier.
Yeah.
But it's cool that that's there. And I think that's also why Elden Ring is hit with so many other people,
100%.
is because it's so much easier to get into. And that's not to say, oh, they've made the game easier and now it's not, the hardcore experience that the other games are. It is talk to anyone and they will tell you Melania is probably the hardest boss From has ever designed.
Yeah.
Like,
because she's
like to the point where I think she's fucking unfair. Like it's actually bullshit at times. So but there is that sort of challenge here in the game, but there are far more ways to deal with it as well, I think, which is good.
Yeah, I just think it's clever. It's almost like, because I mean, it feels that every From game that comes out, there's always a discussion on why don't they include an easy mode? Like they're gating off so many players because it's just too hard. I don't know. I feel like it's weird how they go about things in a roundabout way, because at no point was it communicated like, oh yeah, if you struggle with these games, like we've got mimic tiers or summons to make. Yeah. It is just kind of like, oh, here's Elden Ring. Oh, you can summon people. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
It wasn't, like you said, it's not communicated as like, this is if you're having trouble.
Yeah, but
it's just like, this is a mechanic.
But it turns out that it is a very roundabout way of them going, and roundabout but smart way of them going, no, the game can be made as accessible as you want it to be.
Yeah, and far easier if you want it
to
be.
Yeah, I mean, we know two friends, Mick and Kervin, who they were very upfront saying like they've tried From games before, just didn't gel, and they've always bounced off. And then Elden Ring just had enough hype that they're like, well, like, let's just try
Give
it out.
Give it a go, yeah.
And they both fell in love. Like, I know Miklas is busy with his second playthrough now, and he's very adamant, like, Elden Ring is one of the best games he's ever played.
Yep.
And that gives people like me such joy, because it's like, thank you. Like, you are now another person who understands how, like, genius From are. Like, they really are a special studio that... No, people have tried to replicate this combat and they just don't get it right. People have tried to replicate this sort of level design, and I like, not to say that there aren't well-designed games, but there's just nothing like this. Like you know when you're playing a From game, you just know. And I think it's so cool that there are these tools that allow players to make the game as palatable as they want it to be. It's like people like me, I never used summons in my first playthrough because I wanted that hard traditional challenge, you know. But then you best believe on my second playthrough, I was messing around with all of the summons, everything, and I had just as much fun. So
yeah. Just giving them a go, because you're like, oh, what did I miss out on the first?
Exactly.
And to be fair, I didn't engage with them at all until very late in my playthrough, about like 70 hours in. And it was literally because I got to a boss, Commander Nile.
That guy. Nile,
and he was like summoning like enemies to help him. And I was like, this feels unfair. So I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. Like,
I'm going to level the playing field.
Yeah, I was like, this mechanic is here. He's literally using the exact same thing against me. So I'm just going to, do that as well. So, but, like you said, Kervin and Mick, they use summons for a bunch of fights in the game. And I think Kervin at one time was like, I've got no pride. I'll fucking use it whenever I want. And like, why not?
But
like, more power to you.
For me, you still get people on, Reddit threads and Twitter gatekeeping, like, oh, if you used the mimic tier, like, you didn't play the game right. You robbed yourself of the right experience. I'm like, if those tools weren't there, these people would just not have played the game by default. Yeah. They would have died a couple of times, like, it's too hard. I don't have time to commit to this. I'm just going to bounce.
Also, these are the same fucking people, like, straight up, that will, when people say, oh, From should add an easy mode, they'll be like, you must respect the developer's intent. The developer's intent here is a mimic. It is in the game. It is programmed in there. It is designed to work the way it works. If people want to use it, that is within the confines of the game. It's the same reason, like, I'm pretty sure people on Reddit would have hated me because I used a mimic and I used Tears of Blood. Is that the sword? Is that what it's called?
The Rivers of Blood. Oh, yeah.
Rivers of Blood. That's the one.
That weapon gets so much hate on the Reddit. I'm like, it's there. It's a good
people
weapon.
People are so attached to like I did it this way and it was hard this way. And if you chose any other easier path, then you're not as valid. Like, fuck off.
I don't know.
Like, that is the one part of From games that I wish never existed.
But it's such a weird reaction, because I get the complete opposite, where, like I said earlier, it gives me such joy that Mick and Kervin have got to play this game and experience it and fall in love with it. I know if there weren't, summons or whatever, they would have probably just bounced. Like, I don't have the time to commit to this. Like, I could probably learn how to do it, because people say like, oh no, I get it. It's a muscle thing. You just got to learn the pattern. Some people don't want to put the time to do that.
Yeah, and that's totally valid.
I don't know why you get any joy out of making people like that feel shit. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it doesn't take anything away from your way.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know.
I was just very glad that I played this game. Like, all the From games before, I've played like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, kind of out of step from when they're released. So I was never playing with other people who were playing at the same time. I think the only one that I did was probably Demon Souls with you at launch. But now, all of us were playing Elden Ring at sort of the same time, or at least you guys were all playing and I was, listening. And just these sort of shared experiences that you get, it's incredible. I think that's the strongest part of this game. Just like, oh, I did this today, or, oh, I discovered this. And someone's like, haven't seen that, or like, oh, you don't forget to go get this. It's so cool. It's such a great time.
But even you playing now all these months later, it was a lot of fun just being on our Discord and you saying, I fought so-and-so. And all of us side-eyeing each other going like, ooh, he's so close to fighting this person now, or he's going to unlock this. It's good fun. Like, I think one of the best parts of gaming is that shared experience of, if you were to stamp a name it, it's like those water cooler moments of like, whoa, I can't believe this happened to me. or I did this, or how did you do that? And I think Elden Ring is so good in that regard because it is big enough that you'll see stuff other people won't. You'll build in a way that other people won't. You'll find a boss so trivial and another person will struggle, but then they'll struggle in another boss and you'll find it so trivial. And that's amazing. Like, it just shows how everyone tackles these games differently. And some tools make it easier, some make it harder. But I mean,
and how varied the bosses are as well. That their design is able to like pick up on variations of playstyle. Like you and Kervin, you guys never struggled with Malekith, and he was like one of the bosses where I was like, I actually can't deal with this guy. But then like other bosses like Melania, I like breezed past her with a mimic, whereas Kervin and Mick struggled, at the same. So it's just, there's so much good design that exposes the different sorts of ways people play these games. And
but even
again, it's just from being like on another level.
Like really. A good example is a lot of people say like, oh, if you use spellcasting, you're playing the game on easy mode. Like
they've said that for every single From Software game in existence.
They've said that until. So I was like,
okay, fuck is this damage? I'm sorry, you just hit Margaret twice and he's nearly dead.
This is one of the first bosses, and I'm very strong now.
Okay.
So imagine my second playthrough, and I'm a mage. I'm going to cast spells. Who's the first like open world enemy you stumble upon after getting out of that grave? It's the tree sentinel, right? So I'm like, I'm going to just glintstone pebble this dude. Now, if you glintstone pebble him, he'll reflect your spell back at you and it'll like kill you. Which completely caught me off guard the first time. I was like, oh,
that's amazing.
Like, my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, oh, I can't just cheese this dude from far. Like he'll reflect my spells back at me. And it's the same with Radigan, the final boss. There are times when you'll cast a spell at him, he'll just straight up reflect it back to you. It's like there are systems in place to go like, okay, this character's playing a spellcaster. He has like a slightly different rule set for them.
Yeah,
it's genius. Yeah. It's like I'll unashamedly say it is my game of the year. Like I've played some good games this year, but I haven't put as much time and thought into a game like Elden Ring in a long time. Like the reason I'm speedrunning it, for those who don't know, is that I just want to play the game more, but I don't want to commit to the 100-hour things. I'm trying to condense those highs into like a shorter playthrough as possible. So like it gives me joy that on a day I can go, hey, I feel like playing Elden Ring. I can finish it in 3 hours and still like tick off the main bosses that I want to fight. Yeah, it's good fun. This is a bullshit run, can I just say? It's the worst.
I can see. I know exactly where you are now in Stormvale, and I'm like, I would never have chosen to do this way, but I mean, it's definitely it's way quicker than the other one. Yeah.
It's hard.
No, it is fun watching you attempt your speedruns because it's again, I'm seeing the game in an entirely different light. I'm seeing it torn apart in ways that I didn't know possible. Yeah. And I think that's really fun. So I definitely think I will play this again. I don't think it'll be soon because I don't want to get to that point where I feel like I've just burnt out in it. And like after 90 hours, I just feel like a little bit of a break from it.
It's a big time investment to put in.
I mean, huge.
Like those 90 hours were good, but to sit down and think about doing it again, like I won't. I mean, I probably will replay this game at some point properly. And then I'll again commit. Let's say if I were to put a number in 3 to 5 years time, I go, you know what, I actually do want to play Elden Ring, experience it from scratch, and I'll do it again. Then I'll do the poking around.
I do not think though that it's, and this is for entirely different reasons, but I still think it's like below, if I had to list the favorite From games I have, it's like below Bloodborne for me. But that's not entirely because like Bloodborne does something this doesn't. It's 100% because Bloodborne's vibe is just something that I prefer, the Victorian Gothic era.
Completely different setting. The weapons in Bloodborne are just
incredible. They're incredible.
The trick with the fact that you can flip between 2 different modes in each weapon, and then there's intricacies of if you do an attack and then switch to the other weapon mode and it does another attack, like that's really, really cool. But it does have me wondering, like we actually spoke about this thing briefly yesterday. We said, well, what do From do next? And it's like, it has to be Bloodborne 2.
It has to be.
Surely.
Like, to me, that is the most logical course.
But
because they're not doing a Souls again.
No.
It's either a Bloodborne 2 or a Sekiro 2, you know, like I don't see them making another massive game like this straight away.
No.
This takes
I do
time.
think it'll be Bloodborne. It'll be not open world, so you know, quote unquote linear. You know, those games aren't explicitly linear.
Like wide linear,
Yeah. And then we'll get an Elden Ring too. I'm pretty sure
I agree
we'll
with
get a sequel to this game.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get, like, the way Elden Ring is sold as well, there is no chance in hell this doesn't get a sequel. Like, but I think that's going to be a very big undertaking. Like, if they are going to try and top this or at least match it in terms of world and scale. Because the question coming into this was, can From do an open world game? You know, how does this work? How does their formula, their structure work in an open world setting? And I think, like good open world games before them, like a Breath of the Wild, like a Metal Gear Solid 5, where the same question was kind of posed, like, how do you turn these into open world games? Now the question is, how do you surpass them? You know, it's like, how does Tears of the Kingdom next year for Zelda surpass Breath of the Wild? How does it build on that open world? And I think From's got the same very complicated problem to face with an Elden Ring 2, which I'm really, you know, hopeful to see them tackle, because I think, like all the best developers in the world, it is them who could pull it off. You know? They haven't missed yet, and I don't think they will anytime soon. So
yeah, it's quite scary to think that. I think, look, I haven't played Dark Souls 1 and 2, but I think Dark Souls 2 was a low point for a lot of people. I can't list the reasons. But
it's got a bit of a renaissance lately. A lot of people are like, hey, a lot of game's actually not as bad as it is. Yeah.
But you're right. I don't think they've missed, and it's quite weird to think of a world where they launch a game and people are like, oof, like this is not good. Like the quality and design is just always, it never misses. It's so good.
Yeah. Even when their games are so, like, people are like, oh, they're just making a Souls game. And if you had to put Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring together, they are 2-3 unbelievably different games. Like, yes, they follow the core principle of hard combat, lose progress when you die. But the way they function, the way their combat functions, the way their exploration functions is just entirely different. So, yeah, it's incredible, the breadth that From Software has.
The breadth of the wild, some would say.
The breadth. Oh, yes, some would say. But yeah, it's a great game. I mean, we don't need to say more. I think that Elden Ring is probably going to be the best game of the year.
Yeah, I think it's going to clean up.
It's certainly like it's like Tunic and Elden Ring for, again, different reasons. Like Tunic hit me on a more emotional level.
Tunic,
Elden Ring is like...
Tunic's up there for me as well.
Yeah, and which is crazy. It's like two so differently looking games that are like so high up for me, but also kind of special for the same reasons. It's about the unknown and learning the unknown and just discovery. You know, Tunic was all about, oh my God, I can't believe this puzzle was here. And Elden Ring is like, oh my God, I don't believe this whole fucking entire region of the map was here. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good.
The fact that the fact that it pulled an open world game, I think, it still blows me, because I was one of those that had doubts of, like, I don't know how the Dark Souls experience translates to an open world, especially with sorry, we're going to end now because else we'll never stop talking. But the fact that, you know, these games are the games that came before are sort of balanced to be like, okay, by the time you get to this boss, you will be more or less this level, and you know the boss is going to hit you hard. So Elden Ring just removes that because it's an open world. But again, it's funny because that makes the game more accessible, because people like Mick and Kervin could just say, I do not want to fight this boss now. I'm just going to go away somewhere
just
else,
over level yourself.
Come back to hit the boss, and that's fun.
And that, like you said, that's something that you can't really, I mean, you can do it to an extent in like a Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne, but you've always got that roadblock. So unless you're running the same path over and over, you know, it doesn't feel the same here. It's just like, well, I'm going to go a different way in the map and probably see something entirely new while also progressing. it definitely feels a lot more tuned for that.
Yes, I think the open world, the point I was going for there is that, like, I had concerns about how leveling would work and how parts of the game would feel easier. And they did, but by the end of the game, it didn't matter because those last bosses still hit very hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the final boss was still gave me, the final few bosses, Godfrey and
Godric. Godfrey and Radigan. My bad.
Radigan gave me some issues. So, this is what I was talking about. I was talking about the two Iron Maidens, and then you end up like in Volcano Manor proper. What?
No. So I died. This is what
I was about to say. Was there some trick I didn't know about?
No.
I'm pretty sure
I fluffed that. So what's happening now is, remember I told you, like, how do you get to the Altus Plateau unless you have the medallion or you go through the mine? It's you start in Volcano Manor, you go to the depths of Volcano Manor.
Oh, and this takes you to Altus Plateau.
I can actually just scrap this before we end this discussion. So look at this. You kill them.
I always thought you dropped Mount Gilmer.
Yeah, but it's just,
and this takes you to Altus Plateau.
Altus Plateau. It's so good. It's amazing.
God. Okay. I never put that together because I'd taken that route before, but obviously I'd been to Altus Plateau before.
Yeah.
So I never put together like, I could probably do this.
It's incredible. I don't know if it is intentional, but the fact that this game has ways to speed run across huge
definitely
areas,
intentional.
It's crazy.
Like the interconnectedness, like you're not using glitches, you're just using very clever routing to get to bypass it and things. It's the same way Tunic actually does the same thing. Like you can face the first boss without ever getting the sword. And that's like that's a viable path in the game. It's really difficult to do, but like you can do it, and then you can completely sequence break that game to the point where it's now like an entirely different thing. So yeah, it's intentional. It's there, you know.
Oh damn!
Cool. So that is Elden Ring.
You won't hear us talk about it for a long time. Maybe.
I would not.
See you next
bank
week.
On that.
Yeah.
I'm just reading on Twitter that today's a much less crowded day at Comic-Con, so probably should have gone today.
I think it'll still
Yesterday
get busy,
was
though.
Yesterday was hectic.
We didn't even touch on that. Yeah, we went to Comic-Con.
We went to Comic-Con Africa. We ate a donut chicken burger.
No regrets.
It was weird.
Absolutely
super
no
weird.
regrets.
The chicken was very good. The donuts were very sticky.
They were.
That's all I got. My baby Yoda milkshake sucked. Would not do again.
I enjoyed mine. Was a brownie milkshake.
Yours looked pretty good,
with the actual brownie piece.
It was that completely clogged up your straw at one point.
It was great.
Had to eat your milkshake.
It was great. Hold on, let's add some more birthday. I'm loving how festive. If you're an audio listener, you owe it yourself to just open up the YouTube thumbnail, YouTube
and see
video.
the progression.
Scrub to the start at the beginning and then scrub to the end. These two aren't lined up. It's cool. There we go. That's coming off my little thing.
That's very good. Do we we're at an hour 15, so I don't know if we're going to get to news, but do we have any questions that have come in over the past 3 weeks?
I didn't put questions tweets out because I know we had some questions banked from last week and the week before. So let me just pull up our email quickly. Let's
do that. If you also want to send us questions from now on, place hasn't changed. checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. That's the one.
Nice.
Had to remember after not saying it for like 3 days. You can also find us on Twitter at Checkpoint Chat, also on Instagram at Checkpoint Chat. You can send us messages whenever. Matty will 99% get
hopefully see them. I do miss some sometimes. I apologize.
Every now and then, it's okay.
Cool. We have a question from Malaysia. I actually sent this on September 9th, a long time ago. Sorry, Malaysia.
Okay. Sorry for that.
It said, hey guys, looking at a gaming PC for my kid. For my budget, I went big on the GPU, so 3050 or 3060. And notice most shops who do PCs are bundling that with an AMD Ryzen 5, usually the 5600. I've always done Intel for my builds, choosing an i7, but that pushes the price up too much and I'd have to compromise on the GPU. Again, I don't really know the Radeon equivalents. If I'm building a gaming PC with a decent amount of longevity, it'll be used for gaming, 1080p plus streaming, and just learning how PCs work, but only on a 1080p monitor. Currently it's a Minecraft, Fortnite, Rocket League, but that'll change with time, I assume. Probably to Apex or whatever older kids move on to. Is that the best configuration for my budget, or should I consider Intel CPU or Radeon GPU? So, yeah.
So that CPU is the exact same one I have in my PC. I've enjoyed my time with it. I came from Intel as well. I will probably be going back to Intel soon, but that is mostly because my CPU is now a bottleneck when I'm trying to game at like 1440p and 4K and higher. So that's nothing to do with like the CPU being bad. It's just like I need my CPU to be faster to game at higher resolutions when my GPU is like not doing enough work. For the purposes of yours, Rocket League, your Fortnite, your Apex even, I think that is a stellar CPU and GPU config. I think if you can find one, especially now, with the 40 series having been announced and Ethereum mining like completely dying, you might actually find that GPU prices have actually come down since sending this question, which is amazing. So I would say just for longevity reasons, if you can manage a 3070, that'd be great, because then you probably would not have to upgrade that GPU for a good 5-6 years if you're sticking to those sorts of, esports games, as I want to say, because those are usually like fairly low level taxing, and especially at 1080p. But I think that CPU is a great choice. If you are planning to do gaming and streaming, though, at the same time, I might advise maybe looking at something with a few more cores. So like a 5800, or Intel's about to release their 12th gen, 13th gen CPU. So you could look at maybe a 12th gen one, like a Core i5. Actually, the i5 would be better than the 5600 if you were doing those two things, just because it's got more cores and it splits up workloads a lot better. So those are just some options. But otherwise, the 5600 is killer. Like if I didn't need to upgrade mine because of the CPU bottleneck, like I would probably be sticking with mine. And I paired mine with like a 3090, like because I thought it was the best price for performance ratio at the time. So yeah, it's a good choice. AMD's stuff is real good. They're actually launching new stuff at the end of this month. Yeah, 27th of September. So 2 days, well, a day after this episode goes out, they're launching their new CPUs as well.
Nice.
And those are meant to be a big upgrade. And you will have they're the Ryzen 6000 series, so you'll have a 6600. So might even be worth looking at that, because if I'm not mistaken, it's the same launch price as the 5600. So yeah, you're building a PC at a good time now. All the new stuff is coming out, so you can choose between old and new and get a good price. Yeah.
Cool. Well, the extent of my knowledge in that subject is that I know GPU prices have come down, or they're just a lot more.
Or they obscene, depending on which ones you're looking at.
Yeah. Cool. We have a question on Twitter from Jared Bra, who sent us on the 16th, so last weekend. Okay. He says, "Hey guys, thanks for all the great content you've been pumping out. I hope you guys get embraced with a huge check, or get the chat on Game Pass also. Imagine. I hope it only goes from strength to strength. Just wanting
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanting to hear your thoughts on the Ethereum merge and the gaming space. My goodness, this is all territory I cannot cover. I just know Ethereum equals crypto. That's the extent of my knowledge.
I think who was I explaining this to yesterday? You. I was explaining this to you, yeah. Yeah, so just, this is a Cliff Notes version of what happened. So for the past 3 years, Ethereum has been trying to move from what they call proof of work to a system called proof of stake. Now, proof of work is, there are a bunch of cryptocurrencies that run on proof of work, and those are the ones that require a lot of computational power to basically verify the blockchain that they're on. They're constantly like doing all sorts of calculations. Thank you for the hat. I really enjoy it. They're doing a lot of complex calculations to verify the blockchain, and that's why you need those like big like fucking skyscrapers with 10,000 GPUs just running algorithms like constantly. Bitcoin is proof of work, probably will always be proof of work. It sucks. Ethereum has been proof of work. It is part of the reason why we had a GPU shortage, because it was profitable enough for you to mine Ethereum at home. But they've been trying to move to proof of stake, which does a couple of things. It makes transactions cheaper, makes them much faster, and the environmental impact is almost non-existent. So they finally did that. That was what they called the merge. So now Ethereum transactions are verified by using staked ETH. So people can take an amount of Ethereum that they own and stake it in a pool, and then all of the staked ETH on the blockchain. I'm not entirely sure how this works, but it's used to verify new transactions on the blockchain. And then based on how much ETH you have staked, you earn passive income based on that. So like a bank account, you'll get 7% back per annum in Ethereum if you stake a certain amount. So that's cool. It went through. It's why Ethereum mining is dead, because you can no longer mine Ethereum. The chain doesn't use that to verify transactions. There'll probably be a new cryptocurrency that comes up as the new profitable one to mine. That's how Ethereum got popular. But at least for now, always. I mean, there's so many cryptocurrencies. So Ethereum was big. Ethereum became really, really big when Bitcoin started becoming non-profitable to mine. And then everyone like moved to Ethereum. They're like, oh, well, I can mine this at home and actually make a killing.
Yeah.
And the price rose. It became harder to mine,
etc.
So now, I don't know, maybe Ripple will become the next big thing to
Ripple.
I don't know.
Oh, God.
No idea. I haven't seen evidence of anything yet that will replace it, but it was good that Ethereum made this change with it being the second biggest cryptocurrency in the world. Basically, on the day of the merge, 0.2% of the world's electricity usage just disappeared. And that's crazy to think that Ethereum was consuming that much. So, it's good. It's a good change.
Cool.
Hope that answers your question.
Oh my God, that is so detailed. I'm so glad you're knowledgeable, because that would have just gone over my head. We have a question from at Abe_Wilson, who asks, with 2023 shaping to be a huge year for the fighting game genre, with both Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 releasing.
Hell yeah.
Do you guys think fighting games will move back from niche to mainstream like the genre was in the early 90s? And who are you maining in Street Fighter 6?
I don't think it will ever be as big as it was in the 90s, because that was also very much an arcade culture.
Arcade era.
I do think fighting games are still quite big though. Like Tekken 7 sold nearly 10 million units. That's
I did not know it was that much,
Yeah, it's quite big. I don't think it's like at the forefront of gaming now. Like you said, in the 90s, when you thought of gaming, you thought Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and Tekken probably. But I do think that Street Fighter is making a fucking huge comeback just as a series comeback. Like, hot damn. The amount of good word I've seen for that game is unbelievable. And I'm super excited to actually invest time into a Street Fighter for the first time and try and get good at it, because it actually looks fun. Like, it looks really, really cool. Who are you maining?
If it isn't stretch your arm guy, I don't know.
Dawson, let's go.
I often joke about stretch your arm guy, but the only people I'm actually, I say decent loosely, the only people I actually know how to do moves with are Ken and Ryu. So
quarter circle punch.
You're going to get some Hadouken, some uppercuts, and some of those. Those
Shoryuken every now and then.
What's that kick called? Oh, Jeff's
Shoryuken, isn't it? Or is that the uppercut?
No, the uppercut Shoryuken. Shoryuken, Hadouken, and then there's that like kick move. I can't remember what it's called.
The one where he spins with his leg.
He spins, yeah. Who are you playing?
I always loved Dawson. That's who I've always
stretch your arm guy.
Like I've never gotten into Street Fighter big, but like when I have played, I always like him. He's like the Eddie Goro of Street Fighter. It's just like what everyone plays. Probably Ken. I want to give a try with Ken. Ken seems fun. Or Chun-Li, actually. Chun-Li seems like a really cool
Ken looks badass this game.
Maybe a brawler. Maybe Zangief.
Oh, do some. Is he a wrestler?
Yeah, he's a brawler. He's a grappler. Yeah,
grappler. Yeah, sorry, that's the term I'm looking for. Cool.
Yeah. Very excited for that game though. Super, super keen. Even Tekken 8, to be honest.
Yeah.
Have you watched that Tekken anime on Netflix?
No. Is it any good?
Don't do it. It's very bad.
Is it bad?
Super bad.
I hate to see it.
Yeah,
I
sucks.
think that is all the questions. I don't see anything else on Instagram, email, Facebook. Yeah, there you go. It's a nice round episode, a nice round-ish number to end the episode on, like the hour 30 mark. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask the podcasts?
When am I getting paid?
Well, where's this big check Jared told us about? I mean, come on. Yeah,
would love that.
If you want to send us a fat check with money for no reason, you can email. No, we do this. I think it's just worth reiterating that 200 episodes in, this has never been about making money or anything. Like, obviously, if there's any advertising we do, like, that's just a nice bonus. It's always just been about two friends getting together to just share our love for video games. Yeah, and I can't believe we've done it for nearly 5 years now. Where does the time go?
It all started with us talking shit about video games while doing a park run, and then we stopped doing park runs and then decided to just record those conversations.
We've started running again together, so...
Yeah, we were meant to do one this morning. We became lazy, but it's okay.
To be honest, I was quite relieved. You're like, because I had no plans to run today. I was like, I'm donating blood. I'm tired. Like, yeah. So there we go. No running today.
Yeah, it's been a strong 200 episodes. Probably many more to come. And
sorry, by the time you listen to this, you will know because we're announcing it on social. We've hit 1 million plays.
Oh yeah, that's actually quite big as well. So
it's thank you. The milestone just coincided nicely. 200 episodes, 1 million plays.
It's kind of mind blowing to me. Didn't ever expect this. I always thought this would be a sort of smallish endeavor. You know, we're doing it because we love talking, and then there'd be a couple of people who latch onto that. But there's been a good following, and we really appreciate all of the support throughout the years. So. Thank you if you're listening. And as always, we will be back next week for episode 201. It won't be another 3-week break.
New era,
promise.
Hopefully. Well,
yeah. Well, hopefully, if we're in stage 8 by next weekend, listen, there's only so much we can do.
ESCOM can snap their fingers. We go, no, please, we made a promise. Yeah. Cool, guys.
Thank you so much, as always, for listening. Thank you to Matty for being a great co-host, as always.
No, you.
And we will be back tentatively next weekend. Have a great week. Goodbye.
With no birthday hats.
Only at 300.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.